On Twitter though, it's like, well, do I have a company page and do I have my own page? Where we do that. But I've seen a couple companies, and when you get into HR, it's also kind of a weird discussion because some of the HR folks are so involved in HR, they don't want to, their friends on Facebook being involved in the same discussions. So I think it's going to be sort of a case-by-case basis based on your comfort level. The good news about Facebook is if you're worried about the personal and professional, and you want to keep them kind of separate, the more time you spend on any of these sites and your personal profiles around privacy and all the privacy stuff that the average user just blows by and clicks agree and just sets it up so they can get started, the more time you spend with that stuff, and especially in Facebook, the more you can keep that stuff in kind of the walled garden away from even Google. Although Google's starting to see more and more, they're picking up Twitter now, and there's a lot of different stuff. So it's tougher, but the more time you spend in privacy, if you're worried about that, the better. So back to your question, I think in some instances like LinkedIn, you have no choice. If you're going to participate there, and in all these cases, there's, I think we call it like 11 magic words. Don't count though. So I'm not sure if these are 11, but I work for EmpowerMM Marketing. This is my opinion, not theirs. Always be transparent. Let people know. Don't try and act like you love EmpowerMM Marketing. Oh, well, go figure. You work for them. That makes sense. If I don't notify people of that when I'm talking about how great they are, that's going to leave them a very bad taste in their mouth. They're going to figure it out. There was a case, Whole Foods. Whole Foods CEO went into financial chat rooms talking about how great Whole Foods was. He created a bunk profile. It was his wife's name, Deborah, spelled backwards. And it was kind of suspicious, so they busted him. There's IP, there's trails back to your computer. So all this stuff is ferreted out. Some people take great pride in doing that, in fact. So be transparent. Tell them who you are before they even have to ask. And I think that'll be good. I think for LinkedIn, it's a pretty easy answer because you have to have a profile to participate. Similarly, in Facebook, it's not as mandatory. You can participate on behalf of the company, I think. Actually, I take that back. I think you need a profile there as well. But for Twitter, I've seen companies like Sodexo. Sodexo does so much social media, HR, and recruiting. They're a really good best practice for using this for a recruiting channel. And on Twitter, they've got some Twitter feeds that it's like it's a split screen of their logo and the person. And that's a lot of work for a very small avatar, but they're branding it. They're letting people know this is Sodexo, but they're putting the personal face with it. The Dell example I talked about, Lionel at Dell is one of the handles, and we know it's Lionel if he's talking, it's on behalf of Dell. He assigned his profile to the company and works with that. So it's going to be based on your comfort level, your company's comfort level, and it'll be case by case. Some of the golden rules will never change. Your audience, at the end of the day, you live and die by your audience, you're going to be okay. If your strategy, goals, objectives, all those things are involved, you're not just going immediately to the Facebook page and wanting to do it because so-and-so told you to, or because the competitor's on there. You're going to be a lot better off. Also, at the same time, I think you should experiment. I talked about participating. I think there's a test and learn mentality you need to get into, especially in B2B. Everybody wants to know where's some good B2B case histories. Bad news, there aren't a ton. Take advantage of that. Experiment, learn from it. Don't do something that's huge across multiple quarters and so forth. Maybe it's more event-driven, and you're focused around just a specific event, because there's a time to stop to that. So okay, well, I'm going to do a limited investment of time in this, see how it works, learn from it, and the next time I'm going to do an even better job. Experimenting right now, there's two great examples. MyUnionTerminal.org. Union Terminal had the levy, it passed at 64% over in Cincinnati, and the whole thought around MyUnionTerminal.org is everybody talks about their connection with Union Terminal, whether their family, was one of the thousands that ran through it during the war, way back in the day when it's a train station, or whether they took their kid there on a field trip and spent a Saturday afternoon. So they created this site telling some of those stories and also encouraging people to tell their own. They seeded it with some stories so that when you got there it wasn't there, and then they said, oh, and by the way, we've got a levy going on, so don't forget, if the story's important to you. If you want other people to have similar experiences, vote for the levy. They immediately, for the crowd that went there to that site, they engaged with them, connected with them, involved in storytelling, made an emotional connection. then you're not talking about, is it going to raise my taxes? You're talking about, do I want people to have the same connection with their kid that I had at Union Terminal? I will vote for that. Now, the good news also for them was that it didn't raise your taxes, but it changed the conversation. Similarly, United Way, I helped out with this United Way plan this year. Their campaign with P&G, there was a social media component. Similarly, we engaged with some bloggers to talk about their connection with the United Way. And also we had high-profile individuals tell their story and ran all this content for the site. And, again, tried to connect the individual donor to the individual that was being helped by the United Way. In the past, it was more of a 401k situation where they had a big company representing multiple different organizations going to big companies representing many different employees and doing transactions. Where in this case, they were, a lot of people due to this period of forced change are out on their own or in very small companies that United Way is not connecting with. They needed to adapt the strategy because they were losing a ton of people once they left those big companies. And they knew they weren't going to make their goals if they didn't change their strategy.